Magickal fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric RauKhu. First of all, I want to say, hope you had a good summer solstice, or happy Haru Day, happy Haru Victorious Day. You can see I'm still wearing my red, and got my Haru going. Got my Harus. They fighting for me and everything. So, first of all, like I said, I hope everybody had a good summer solstice. But in this video, this was coming to mind. This is one of the things that came to mind, especially after the whole Juneteenth thing. It got me thinking about some stuff. And one of the things that came to mind was talking about MAAT again. All right, going right back into MAAT, talking about MAAT, balance, and holistic thinking. Okay. Holistic thinking, I would say also magical thinking. Okay. And I wanted to say, first of all, the whole purpose of studying history, okay, or one of the reasons for studying history is that when you study history, it gives you kind of like a physical, detailed account of events that took place that influence our present. Okay, that's the whole purpose of studying history. And if you're not involved in anything, if you're not involved in spirituality, if you're not involved in any type of spiritual practice or whatever the case may be, if you just study history, what happens is that you have still kind of a lopsided view. You don't see the whole picture. You're not able to balance an equation out, for the most part. But when you get into spirituality, right? When you get into the spiritual traditions, and you get into a spiritual way of thinking, you start studying mythology, all right? And the whole purpose of studying mythology is that mythology gives you a understanding of the energies that basically took place, or the energies that exist that influence the historical events. Okay, so understand what I'm saying. When you don't study, when you're just into the history, when you don't really deal with anything spiritual, you're kind of unbalanced, or you are imbalanced, because you're basically making all your decisions. You're doing everything based upon what you physically see. All right. When you get into spirituality, and you start studying mythology, the mythology again, it gives you the spiritual aspect of it. It helps you to see the energies that exist, the energies that are influencing a lot of those historical events. Okay, now let me give you a prime example. It's like, for instance, I remember, and I'm not trying to be judgmental about this individual, but I just, give you just an example of what I mean by this. I remember when the first time, my boy, he went ahead and he was talking about Dr. Umar, all right? And when Dr. Umar first came out on the scene, when he first came out on the internet scene and everything, he was doing these lectures and what have you. And I mean, it was popping, okay? There was a lot of things that he was saying that a lot of us wanted to say. There was a lot of things that he was, a lot of truths that he was basically spitting out. And historical truths that he was spitting out, okay? And, for the most part, like I said, there was a lot of information, a lot of information he was telling us. There was a lot of things he was saying that, he really was speaking from the heart, okay? Which is part of the reason why a lot of people, they basically, was giving him donations. But then when all the allegations, when all the other things basically started surfacing about some of the things in which he did, I remember when I was listening to him and when I was hearing some of these allegations, hearing some of these things that, that came up, I remember when I was listening to it, I was like, wow, where's his guides? You know, where because I was really wondering. I was like, where's his spirit guides? Where's his, where's his the elders that should be trying to steer him in a certain direction? Okay. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm not judging him. We all basically we make mistakes. We all make some grave mistakes. The thing about making a mistake or the thing about life, I should say, is that you still have a chance to correct it. You still have a chance to bring a balance about it. But I'm using his situation as an example because it goes to show you what I mean when I'm saying if you just look at it from one perspective, you don't see the other side. You don't deal with the spiritual aspect, and that's what causes such a problem. Okay? Now, what I mean by that is, for instance, every black man in this country that is trying to make a significant contribution, all right, and they've studied history, they know there's always three things that has always stopped the movement. Okay, it's always three things, and those three things are sex, money, and drugs. Okay, and if you talk to any black man in this country, who's trying to make any kind of change, whether it be make a change in the community, they're trying to have a positive impact by coaching, coaching in sports, whatever the case may be. Those are always the three things. It's always the three things that have always killed the movement. And that's the reason why when you talk to someone, like I said, when you talk to a black man who's dealt with this, who understands this, you'll find out that that's the reason why they stay away from certain people. We stay away from certain people. We stay away from certain situations, because we don't want any of that to basically stop what we're actually trying to do. Okay? So the fact that a couple of these things are basically what kind of stopped, Dr. Umar's movement, it goes to show that's the spiritual aspect of it. He had, and again, this is my opinion, okay, but he has the history down. He has all of that down. He has the physical aspect of it down. But in regards to the spiritual aspect, you can see that's where the struggle is at. Okay, and that's, like I said, that's an example of what I mean when we're talking about a balanced situation. So, and I mean, just to give you a little, an example of even my life. I remember when I first went to college. Remember I come from for the most part, semi-strict, sheltered, apostolic Pentecostal household. So basically, we're taught not to drink. We're taught not to, you didn't go to parties or any of those kind of things. Now, but as I was saying, when I got older and I ended up going to college, okay, I started going to parties, and I drank a little bit, not a whole lot or anything, because I'm still kind of, that whole stigma of the whole, conditioning of don't drink because of this, you're going to go to hell type of thing. That still kind of played with me. But when I pledged a fraternity, and don't knock me for pledging a fraternity, we all have different routes and different roads that we have to take in order to get to the light. Okay, so get off that. But when I pledged a fraternity, that's when I run it. We would go to parties all the time. Okay, you would travel from go to parties in PV, go to Sam Houston, you go all over for the most part, all over the state. You know, you go to different parties or so, being supportive and everything. And I remember because I was into the party scene and everything, I had just started, I started drinking, and I started drinking a little bit more. And remember, because I don't know, I was restricted, or I was told it was a sin to do these things. That's what made me go to the opposite side and was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna drink because, hey, I don't see how that's going to be a sin. So anyway, went ahead and I drank, and there was times, got stupid drunk and everything. And it wasn't until I read the story of Osir. And when I read the story of Osir, I was reading the story of Osir and, like I said, committed to memory and everything. And when I would drink then, because I read the story of Osir, I started understanding that I don't want to get super stupid drunk, because that's when Set comes into the picture. All right? And when, even though I might think everything's okay, Set comes in the picture, and that's when he killed Osir. He killed Osir when Osir was drunk. All right? And that was the myth that basically got me to not just stop, excessive drinking, but it kind of brought a balance, and it helped me to, make me see, yeah, it's okay to drink, but it helped me to also understand moderation. All right? So that was MAAT that was actually teaching me about that whole thing, about moderation and so forth. Okay? Now, there was another example. I remember when, so every time I go to, I would go party and all that kind of stuff, because of me dealing with that myth, dealing with the story of Osir, because of that, I'm always aware. I never fully indulge in anything. I'm always trying to keep my senses, so that, or I make sure I don't overindulge so that I don't lose my crown. Okay? Now, here's another scenario, another situation. I remember when my mentor, my godfather, told me about how, how energies, happen. And I knew that when I walk into when I walk into a club, because it was told to me, okay, people had told me before, hey, you got a lot of Haru energy, and because of me having that Haru energy, and I know I got it, but because of me having that Haru energy, it was told to me, hey, you got to watch out. Okay. Now, because of me understanding myth, whenever I would go to a club or go to a party or any of those type of things, those type of functions, what I will always look at, because it was told to me, this is what happens. Because of Ampu's curiosity and Haruka-Huti's, jealousy, whenever I would come into a party, whenever that Haru energy goes into a party, Nebets, and the Heterus will be looking around, and they see that Haru, and typically, they're hanging out with some Haruka-Hutis. Okay? So, Ampu basically, like curiosity, he gets to, talking, gets them chatting, gets them talking and all around the room. Next thing you know, that Haruka-Huti energy, because of jealousy and that Ampu's curiosity, it mixes. Next thing you know, you got a storm that's brewing up in the club. Here comes Set. Okay? Now, this happens all the time. All right? And anytime you see, you see club, you go to a club, or you see, you're at a party or something and knuckleheads come up, that's usually what it is. It's that same little energy. Okay? There's an imbalance going on. I've gotten to the point of now, because I understand this now, of giving little, making offerings to Ampu, making offerings to RauKhu on the outside of the club, or outside of a party, so that nothing pops off, But the point that I'm making about this scenario or this little situation is that is how I am creating a balance. All right. Now, if I didn't know anything about how these energies function, how these energies basically pop off, if I didn't know anything about that, and I just looked at it as this is just something that physically happens, every time you go to a club, it's always the knuckleheads that mess it up. Every time you go to a party, it's always the knuckleheads. If I just looked at it from that basic understanding, then it will always be that same. It's always the same situation. It's always the same scenario, and it will always end, and it always have the same, end result. Okay, somebody being hurt, or even worse. Okay, but the fact that I understand this now, the fact that I understand, okay, these are energies, they are natural. All right, how do you get that set energy from causing all this confusion? By understanding it now from a like I said, from a spiritual perspective, and seeing them as energies, I've already been using that magical thinking. I'm able to create a balance. All right. I'm able to make an offering, like I said, make an offering to Ampu, make an offering, to RauKhu, so that, or, to the Ampus, I should say, and to the RauKhu, so that they don't pop off and they don't get the brewing, that they stay calm, they're cool, they enjoy themselves, so that set doesn't come up into the party, causing all kind of ruckus. All right. So just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, this is just a real quick, little small video. And I just got me thinking about the whole balance thing. And, hopefully that makes a little sense. Okay. So again, like I said, make sure that you study the history. The history is important. Make sure you study history of how everything, basically, how it unfolds, and how, the events that take place today, why they actually exist, why these events that are going on in the present day, why they are the way they are. But again, if you're coming from a spiritual perspective, you're dealing with spirituality, make sure you study a mythology. Okay, make sure you study myths. All right. When you study myths, you don't study from an intellectual perspective. You're studying it, and you're committing it to memory, so that your spirit, or you're giving your, you're committing it to memory, so that your spirit guides now have a language that they can communicate with you, and they can share these, different details and information with you to help you to understand how to create balance. Okay. Like I said before, thanks again for your support. If you got any questions, drop me a line. All right. Thank you. Peace.